Hansbrough
and gets another
right
rebound.
back in for another rebound. Watch out. He took a shot to the face.
And you know, he is a tough guy. He's hot, but he took a shot there, and the blood is coming out, so he's not going to be shooting these free throws.
Oh, look at this.
Hello all, here's Gerald Henderson with the Tobacco Road podcast alongside with Tyler Hansbrough. Well, not alongside, far away in China, continuing his professional career. We are here doing our first episode of the Tobacco Road podcast. So it'll be a shorter episode. We'll be a little shorter today as we get things started here. But we will cover throughout this time all things Duke and UNC. And it'll be a lot of fun. Tyler, how you doing over there, man?
I'm doing good. Time difference is a little awkward at times when trying to do things, but I'm enjoying China and enjoy playing basketball over here.
Yeah, what time is it over there, man? I think it's nighttime, right?
Yeah, it's actually 10 p.m. right now, about 10:30.
Oh, okay. Did you have a game today? I think they were telling me that.
No, today was a travel day. Yeah, we traveled and got into Beijing, and we play tomorrow.
So we got Tyler Hansbrough here. I'm looking at a sheet. It's pretty long here of accolades, and we all know what kind of college career you had. First leading scorer in ACC history. We know that. I saw a lot of those buckets. 12th leading scorer in NCAA history. 2 Final Fours, 1 national championship, which I remember happened my junior year at Duke. So we all know your accolades. I was nowhere close to some of the accomplishments that you had. If I can think back, I was maybe first team All ACC. I don't even know honestly where I lie points wise. I only did 3 years at Duke, so not as many points as you. But what ties us together, and one of the reasons why we're here, is we shared a unique moment, did we not?
We sure did. A moment that we probably get asked about
a few times a month, right? At least.
At least. It's incredible.
All right. So, for people who don't remember, as I keep aging and, there's kids who don't know who I am and forget my playing days at Duke, I come back here to Duke almost every 2 weeks or so. As this year I'm recovering from a hip surgery, taking the year off. So I run into kids all the time who literally don't even remember me in a Duke uniform. And, but then I run into a whole bunch of people who are just like, hey man, I got to ask you a question. Right. Do you remember, maybe about 10 years ago, Did you do it on purpose, right? Did you, what was that all about, right? I get that all the time. So before we get into specifically that, right, because I've told my story and my side to a lot of people, what I'd like to know, what's your recollection of that? And I'll start by saying this. So it's a Duke UNC game, and I'd probably say my freshman year, your sophomore year, and you guys are beating the brakes off us. The game's over with. You go to the free throw. You get fouled and go to the free throw line, which is like your whole college career, right? And you can take it from there. I'd love to hear your story.
Well, what I remember from it is I think the game was over, and I was at the free throw line. I'm not sure if the subs were coming in or what, but I had missed that free throw. I'm not sure how I missed it, but somehow I got a hold of it. And I was going back up. I'm not sure if I pump faked or what, but I just remember getting hit in my face.
Mm-hmm.
And when it happened, I had no clue who did it. I actually thought it was DeMarcus Nelson who hit me. So I was kind of upset about that, and I thought about trying to go after him, which would have looked really bad looking back on it if I would have gone after somebody who didn't even do it. But
right.
I remember Dewey Burke holding me back. And just blood was coming down off my nose. At the moment, it didn't really hurt that much, but I'll tell you this, it hurt the next day.
Right.
But, just like you, I get asked about it all the time. When I go back to Coach Williams' camps in the summer, some of these kids, they'll ask me, hey, did it hurt? I'm like, were you even alive when it happened?
Right.
And,
yeah.
And it's just crazy that people who really don't even watch college basketball, they'll know that moment because they see it, on replay before a Duke UNC game. But no, I get asked all the time, do you think he did it on purpose or whatever? And for a few years, I was like, I don't know. Then I think the last couple of years, I was finally like, I think he did it on purpose. But I never.
So that was going to be one of my next questions. Number one, did you think I did it on purpose? And number two, do you hate me because of that? That was going to be my next question.
I probably hated you for a few years.
Yeah.
I thought eventually I might get you back somehow, but
we still got time, man. We still got time.
I remember the NBA draft workouts. When we'd have our draft workouts against each other, it was like a battle. I remember that, but
yep.
But yeah, no, it's there's no hatred towards you now. I mean, it's done. I don't need a petting zoo to get over it. Well, it is what it is.
That's good. That's
I'm
good to
with
hear. That makes me feel a lot better, man. Because you get these questions, man. And I still live in North Carolina. I live in Charlotte, so that there's no real Duke fans. They exist, but it's overwhelming North Carolina support in the state of North Carolina. So, I get it all the time, man. It's just, it never stops. And it's usually, it's UNC people asking me with not asking me hey, at a zero or at a mid-level, hey, did you do it on purpose or anything like that? It's you did it on purpose, didn't you? Right? That's how they ask me. So, over time, that kind of builds up in you, man. So when sometimes even now when people ask me, I'm I already know what you're going to ask. And no, I didn't. Right. So I'll give my recollection of it. And, it's probably the story you've never heard. Right. So we're going to lose the game. Okay. You guys had a really good team that year. I think you went to the Sweet 16 and, you lost to Georgetown, maybe in the Elite Eight. I think you guys lost to Georgetown. So you guys had a really good team. So
yeah, that's right. Sophomore year was Georgetown.
Yeah. So what happened? So we're about to lose. That year we were struggling. We had at least, I want to say, 8, 12, 10 losses. We had a tough year coming off of J.J. Redick and Sheldon Williams last year's, and we were a very young team and just had struggled through that time. So we get to that game, had already lost to you guys one time earlier that season. So we get there and, by the, you guys are just kicking our ass. And so it gets to the end of the game. And I remember in the huddle, Coach K and the coaches are saying, hey, look, we're going to lose the game, but no layups, right? That's typical. Right. When, you're not going to give up anything easy, as the game's about to be over. Everything's going to be a jump shot or whatnot. So I remember a play. We missed a shot or we got a turnover and you guys are running. Right. There's a couple minutes left. You're up almost 20 and you guys are still running, which we wouldn't expect you to stop. So I remember Greg Paulus was back on defense and he let, I believe, Marcus Ginyard get behind him. And just as as good as an athlete that Marcus is, whoever threw the lob, they threw it up real high right over Greg, and it was showtime. And, the whole Dean Dome's going crazy. And I remember in GP, we still talk to this day, I remember being pissed at Greg, and everybody's looking at each other come on, man. We said no layups, right? Not that we would take Marcus out of the air or anything, but at least take away the lob or something, make him lay it up or something, So the Dean Doan's jumping, comes back down the other end. We score or we don't. I can't really remember. But then as you guys come back on the next time, you're around the basket and you get fouled. So you go to the free throw line, and at that time, I want to say we probably thought that you should have been out of the game, right? Just like because of the time and score. And clearly going into the postseason, we don't want anything to happen. I'm not saying that this was one of the reasons that this happened, right? But anyways, you shoot your free throw, and you miss it. And I had kind of migrated towards the baseline a little bit. And you being the great offensive rebounder that you were, you followed your free throw, right? I don't know. You had 25 points. You're going for 27, 28 or something. And Steve Johnson was one of our walk-ons who was an incredible athlete. He fouled you and knocked the ball away, right? But in my mind, I'm thinking, you know what? There's nothing that is going to go towards this basket, considering what just happened with the lob, you know, and me being the kind of hyper and like over-aggressive basketball player you ask anyone I play against, that's just how I play. You know, I'm thinking there's not going to be a hand, an arm, a basketball at the very least that's going to go towards this rim. So as you go up, the ball gets knocked back, and the only thing that remained there in that space happened to be your nose, right? Happened to be your face. So, you know, if you look at the replay, my eyes are closed as it's happening, and I just wildly took a swipe down, you know, with the, you know, shoot, with my elbow, right? But it wasn't my intent to actually hit your face, but I was hitting anything that came in that direction, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I know how it is. And that's a, you know, I've never heard that side, so that's good to know. And, man, you got you remember that like yesterday.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, I told the story, man, a million times, man. So, you know, from that point, right, I mean, your nose was broken, and, you know, it just made it worse. Had I hit your shoulder, your arm, your hand, we wouldn't even have this opportunity to do a podcast together, right? But
yeah, definitely.
Right. But because of that, you know, we're here. And then I remember specifically I got ejected from the game, right? And I get on the bus, and the first person that called me was Wayne Ellington, right? My best friend. And he's, you know, he just, as a good friend would, he said, "Hey, are you all right, man?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good, man," you know. And at the time, I just, you know, me and you, you know, we weren't friends. I didn't, you know, I was pissed we lost the game. I was more pissed that I was going to have to miss the next game. We were going into the ACC tournament. You get ejected from a game, so you can't play the next game. So I was more pissed about that, and we ended up actually losing to NC State in the ACC tournament. I remember that. So, but yeah, and then I think me and you spoke, right? Didn't we speak like the next day or maybe that later that day? And I apologized about it.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, I think the frustrating part for me was the mask, wearing the mask for so long. The problem was I had to go get fitted for this mask, and the mask was heavy, and I couldn't really breathe out of it, and I couldn't see. And so my dad, luckily, he's a doctor, and he got a hold of somebody that really knew. I guess he had made Rip Hamilton's mask, and so he kind of got that mold and figured it out. But that mask drove me crazy. That's kind of the other thing that kind of irritated me about the whole situation. But no, like you said, me and you, we weren't really. I don't even think we'd really spoken before you elbowed me. So you know, it turned into this.
Yep. It turned into this, and look at the opportunity we have in front of us, man. Amazing. We get to, you know, we start the show talking about what got us here, and now, you know, as we continue with this podcast, we'll be able to bring in new guests, Duke, UNC, you know, maybe even some outsiders, talk about the rivalry and whatnot, and it'll be cool. It'll be great. So, you know, as we go forward, you know, we talked about Wayne Ellington. We're going to try to get him on here as a guest next week. You know, he's, you know, obviously one of my best friends. We went to high school together. Wayne just turned 30, man. About maybe 3-4 days ago. He had a surprise birthday party, had a lot of fun. He's down there having a great season with the Miami Heat and is really, really coming into himself. So that's great to see. So, who are some of the guys you think you'll be able to bring on the show from your side?
Yeah, I think what we want to try to do is just talk UNC and Duke here. We can bring in pretty much a lot of good former players. I think we can bring in a lot of different sides. Hopefully, we can get some players that have played way back for Coach Smith, and then kind of work their way up to Coach Williams and more current players, and kind of give you their perspective and their experience and different things. But yeah, I think William would be great to have next week. I mean, he's one of those guys that in the NBA that has really come on lately, and towards the later end is really playing well. I enjoy watching him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really come into his own. One of the things we can definitely talk about is this year's teams. And, Duke's ranked number 1. Very proud of this. Very proud of this. Ranked number 1, having a great season, have a lot of talent, a lot of NBA talent. And actually just watched their game the other night against St. Francis, and I've done some, some broadcasting, some TV stuff, and I've really been in meetings with the coaches and stuff as I've been back at Duke, and they really do have a special team. And then we can also talk about, if you want to, we could talk about UNC and where they're at this season. They're coming off of a national championship year, and, some guys leaving, and, they have a little different season this year. I don't know how much you know about their team.
Yeah, definitely. I've been following them a lot. I'm there a lot in the summer, so I kind of get a feel for most of the players. But I think, with Justin Jackson leaving, I think we're going to, miss some outside shooting. But I think with Luke May coming along really well and getting his confidence from last year in the tournament, I think it's really carried over. And I think he's going to continue to play well for us and come on big. And Joel Berry, who I think before the season I thought he could be ACC Player of the Year, but obviously I think some guys at Duke are playing well too, so he's going to, really have to play well to live up to that. And coming off an injury, I think he'll get his stride, and I think he'll be a contender. But I think we got a lot of experience, and we got a lot of guys that, have had deep tournament runs, and so they know how to handle themselves. And obviously Duke's much younger and, have a lot of potential and talent, whereas we're kind of more of a veteran team, I think, with a lot of experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be great, man. I think, no matter what, no matter how the season goes to, as they get into ACC play and, before they play each other, that first time that you meet, right, it's like it doesn't matter what's happened before, right? It's just I just remember even my freshman year where we were having, a subpar season, but when the Duke UNC game came up, like it just didn't matter because we're playing in this rivalry. That's what we came to school for. And I remember the first time that we played, it was my freshman year. We played at Cameron. And I will mention that in your whole career, right, you were undefeated at Cameron, right? I gotta mention that. That's pretty big time, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is something I'm very proud of. But, it's a special place to play. I'll give you guys that. I mean, there's no other place like it. And to go 4-0 there, I mean, it was definitely an accomplishment.
Yeah, and your freshman year, you beat J.J. Redick on his senior night, ruined his senior night. And I can't remember the stat line you had, but I remember watching the game and being like, this dude is an animal, man, like animal.
Well, my first experience, I remember J.J. came to the Dean Dome, and I remember, you know how it is, weeks before the game, everyone's pumping it up. You see it on the commercials. It's just like you can't get away from it.
Yep.
And by the time the game actually gets there, you're so exhausted from everything. You're like, let's just do this. Let's get this thing over with.
Yep.
And I remember my freshman year coming out in the Smith Center, and J.J. Reddick, I think he had 38 on us. And I was like, man, that guy is crazy good.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat us on our home court. And then I remember, I think the whole team kind of had that memory of how bad they kicked us on our home court. And I think it really helped us prepare better for the next time we went into Cameron. And we kind of focused on JJ a little bit more, but I think he did have an off-shooting night. I don't know if it was his last game, emotions got to him, but luckily he didn't play like he did the first game.
Yeah, yeah. And JJ, we know, had an illustrious career. He's playing now with Philadelphia. You know, we all know how well they're doing. I played with them last season, and we know how much talent they have and how much potential they have over there. But I'll ask you, to get back to the Duke UNC game, what's the thing you most liked about playing in that game? I'm sure you remember, you played in, my assumption is probably 8 games. What was your favorite thing about playing in that game?
To be totally honest with you, it was after the game that I really enjoyed. After we would play, and if we won, it was a celebration afterwards. I enjoyed going back to college and everyone celebrating. Obviously, everyone went crazy on Franklin Street. So I was, after we had won, it was like a mad rush to try to get back to Chapel Hill and get on Franklin Street.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was exciting. But also, just the preparation was exhausting. And to see the hard work pay off and get the wins was great too. But the whole Duke UNC rivalry, it is what it is because it's so close, and the schools are so different. One's big and the other one's small. We all know that, but it did play a factor when I used to prepare for it and looking at it and kind of that way.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't really know how it is to play in it until you play in the game, right? I was saying earlier, my freshman year, I remember we played you guys at Cameron, and we were head to head, and I was having a good game up to the point I scored a basket, and I just remember I could feel as we're coming back on defense, I could feel the floor shaking, and the crazies, doing their little spirit fingers over top of the court. And just thinking in my mind, I remember being so exhausted and just thinking in my mind, like, all right, this is what I came here for. This is what I've watched on TV, and now it's like really coming to fruition. I remember those thoughts. This is 10 years ago, man. So like implanted in my mind, and it's so it's just special moments you get in those games. And you won all 4 games at Cameron. I only beat UNC one time and beat you one time in my tenure at Duke. I don't know if you remember the game. It was a weekday game. Probably it was over at UNC, and I guess Ty Lawson had broke his foot or had a foot injury.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Yep, and he was out. And we came in there, man, and I think we hit like 13 or 14 threes, which was a lot at the time, and beat you guys there. And keep going. Go ahead.
What I remember about that game, I think Greg Pauls came off and really got off early, and he had a lot of big shots for you guys. That's what I remember about that game. But yeah, I do remember you guys giving it to us on our court. My question is, what was the celebration like after you guys beat us at Duke?
When we beat you, you mean at Carolina?
No, at Cameron. I meant at let's redo that question.
Yeah, Smith Center.
Yeah, what was the celebration like after you guys beat us at the Smith Center?
You know what, man? Anytime we win a big game or somebody has a big game, like you'll see on Instagram now where they'll be waiting for a player to come in and it's like a water shower. And that's what it was in the locker room, because it was huge for us, man, because you guys, I think, were ranked ahead of us, and like we had gone through a tough period there in the ACC with a couple losses. So like that was just a huge win. And it's always a big game anyways, but and then just like you said, we couldn't wait to get on the bus and get back to school because, you know, they do the whole bonfire and then, you know, there's going to be some parties, man. And, you know, we're going to be there. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be a good time. But, you know, the bad thing about that game, and I remember it like precisely, is I broke my wrist that game. You know, and I ended up, I forget, it was Alex Stevenson who, you know, I think transferred from UNC, if I'm correct. It's just a regular play. I'm underneath the basket on defense, and I pushed off of him. And, you know, I felt my wrist just kind of burn. I don't know if you've broken a wrist or anything, or like, you know, it just started burning, and I could see like it wasn't moving right. And that was like in the first half, and then we ended up taping it up at halftime, and I played the rest of the game with it. And then we found out after the game that I broke my wrist, right? So if, you know, you know, I'd like to say that I'm like somewhat tough, but like being in that game, there's no chance in hell I was going to come out of the game, right? Like, I didn't care if my arm fall off, like I was going to play, you know.
I'll give it to you. Alex is very strong.
Right.
And I can see that. So, but yeah, I mean, when you have injuries like that in such a great atmosphere, you know, you really don't feel it until the next morning.
Right. I remember that vividly. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for listening to the Tobacco Road podcast. Make sure you listen in every week. We'll be on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. You can go to tobaccoroadpod.com and get every episode. And make sure you subscribe. You know, we need that 5-star rating to get this thing going, man. So, you know, it's going to be a lot of fun. And Tyler, I appreciate you, man. And we'll get going next week with a longer episode. Hopefully get some, you know, a good guest on here. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks a lot.